A lost child crying alone on a deserted street at night. A stranger approaches. The mother panics when she sees her daughter arriving with that man. But what seemed like a family's worst nightmare transforms into the greatest blessing they could receive. A woman fleeing her past. A widower still grieving. A girl who needed a home. And God orchestrating every detail of this story that will make you believe in new beginnings. You won't believe how a simple act of kindness on any given night changed 3 lives forever. So subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment on where you're watching from, and let's get to the story. It was a Thursday night in Millbrook, a quiet little town in rural North Carolina, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. The kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked and greet their neighbors by name. But that night, something was different. It was almost 10 o'clock when Michael Patterson, 42 years old, was returning home after closing the hardware store he managed. Michael was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with graying hair at the temples, with that serious but gentle demeanor of someone carrying the weight of a silent pain. He was driving slowly down Main Street, almost deserted at that hour, when he saw something that made his heart race. A little girl, she must have been about 5 or 6 years old, was standing alone on the sidewalk crying desperately. Her pink dress was dusty, her white sneakers muddy, and she was clutching a teddy bear tightly to her chest. Michael stopped the car immediately and got out, careful not to frighten the child further. "Hey, little one. What happened? Are you okay?" He crouched down in front of her, keeping a respectful distance. The girl looked at him with those tear-filled brown eyes, her little face red from crying so much. "Where's my mom? I can't find my mom." She sobbed between words, and the despair in her voice was heartbreaking. "It's okay. It's okay now," Michael said in that calm voice he used when he wanted to reassure someone. "I'll help you find your mother, okay? But I need you to take a deep breath and tell me, where do you live?" The little girl tried to calm herself, wiping away tears with her small hands. I don't really know. We're living in a place." She started crying again, harder. Michael felt a tightness in his chest. The whole situation was truly worrying him. Such a small child, alone, lost in the street at night. Anything could have happened. "Listen here, sweetheart. Can you tell me where you were before you got lost? Were you with your mother?" The girl nodded. "I went to Mommy's work with her. Then I went outside to play, and now I don't know how to get back." Her words came out broken by sobs. "And where does your mother work?" Michael asked, already trying to think of all the possibilities. The answer came softly, almost in a whisper. "At the diner." And suddenly everything made sense. Millbrook was so small that it only had one diner in the whole town, Danny's Diner, right there on the corner of Main Street and Oak Street. "Ah, I know which one. Come with me. I'll take you to your mother. You can trust me." Michael reached out his hand, and after a moment of hesitation, the little girl took it. They walked to his car, and he carefully opened the back door. "What's your name, little one?" he asked as he fastened her seatbelt. "Emma. Emma Rodriguez." Her voice was still trembling, but she wasn't crying as much anymore. "Emma is a very pretty name. My name is Michael. In 2 minutes, you'll be with your mother again. I promise." The drive to Danny's Diner literally took 2 minutes. The diner was still open, fluorescent lights illuminating the interior visible through the large windows. Michael parked right in front, picked Emma up. She had clung to him tightly, still frightened, and went through the glass door, which rang a bell. Inside, there were only about 3 customers finishing their meals, and behind the counter, wiping a table with quick and mechanical movements, was a young woman, probably around 28 or 30 years old. Her brown hair was tied in a somewhat messy ponytail. She wore a yellow and white waitress uniform, and her expression was tired, reflecting someone who works hard and sleeps little. The moment she turned and saw Emma entering in the arms of an unknown man, her face changed completely. "Emma!" The cry came out with a mixture of absolute relief and terror. The tray she was holding fell to the floor with a thud. She ran towards them, and Michael quickly put the girl down. Emma ran into her mother's arms, and the two hugged each other as if the world were ending. My God, where were you?" Emma's mother pressed her daughter against her chest, her hands visibly trembling. But then she looked up at Michael, and the fear returned. An unknown man, bringing her daughter. Michael saw her expression and raised both hands in a gesture of peace. Calm down, calm down. I found her on Main Street, lost and crying. She told me you worked here, so I brought her back to you, that's all. She's fine. Nothing happened. The words came out in a reassuring tone, slowly, to make it clear that he wasn't a threat. The woman looked at him, then at Emma, then back at him, and then she began to cry. Not a delicate cry, but deep sobs that shook her whole body. I don't know how to thank you. My God, I hadn't even noticed she'd left. I was so busy and the words were lost in the tears. If it had been someone else, who knows what would have happened. Thank you. Thank you so much. Michael felt a lump in his throat. He knew that kind of desperate gratitude, that relief mixed with guilt. No need to thank me. Anyone would have done the same. But he knew that wasn't true. Not in today's world. The woman wiped her face with the back of her hand, still holding Emma with her other arm. Let me at least offer you a coffee. Please. It's the least I can do. Michael was going to refuse, but something in her eyes, in all that vulnerability, made him change his mind. Okay. A coffee would be nice. He sat on one of the stools at the counter while she settled Emma into a high chair in the back of the diner, gave the girl some juice, and returned with 2 cups of coffee. She sat on the stool next to him, and Michael noticed how exhausted she looked. Not just physically, but that kind of tiredness that comes from carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. My name is Sarah, she said, her voice still a little hoarse. Sarah Rodriguez, and that one over there is my whole life, Emma. Michael smiled. Michael Patterson. Nice to meet you, Sarah. Even under the most unusual circumstances possible. She gave a weak, humorless laugh. You have no idea. They were silent for a moment, drinking coffee. Sarah glanced at Emma every 5 seconds, as if she needed to make sure her daughter was still there. Michael didn't want to be intrusive, but curiosity got the better of him. Emma told me you're living here. Sarah sighed deeply, and Michael watched her decide whether or not to reveal the truth. Finally, she said, We're living in a small room in the back. Danny, the owner here, let us stay while I find something better. We just moved to Millbrook about 3 weeks ago. Where did you come from? Michael asked. From Charlotte. Well, originally I'm from Raleigh, but we were in Charlotte until recently. Sarah stirred her coffee cup without drinking, her eyes fixed on the dark liquid. I came here to start over, to give Emma a better life. The life we lived before. It wasn't what I wanted for her, you know. Her voice carried immense weight, that kind of regret that scars the soul. Michael nodded slowly. He wasn't going to judge. Everyone deserves a second chance. Sarah looked up, surprised by his response. Yeah, I believe that too. But not everyone thinks that way. She hesitated, and then the words began to flow, as if she needed to speak, as if she had kept it all inside for too long. I've done a lot of wrong things in my life, Michael. A lot. Bad choices, even worse people. Drugs, toxic relationships. I was a total mess. The words came out raw, honest, painful. But when Emma was born, when I held her for the first time, something changed inside me, you know. I looked at that perfect little face and thought, I can't go on like this. She deserves more. She deserves a real mother. Sarah wiped away a tear that had escaped. It took time, it was incredibly difficult, but I managed to get out of that life. I got clean. I broke up with my ex who was only dragging me down, and I decided to start over from scratch. That's why we're here. A small, quiet town where I can raise her properly. Michael listened in silence, his heart tightening with each word. There was something genuine about that woman, something true in her pain, in her determination. He recognized it, the desperate will to be better, to do better. I see truth in you, Sarah, he finally said. True truth. And what you're doing for your daughter. That's what matters. The past is the past. What counts is now. Sarah looked at him with an expression of surprise mixed with something that seemed like hope. You really believe that? Michael smiled, a sad smile. I do. Because I also know what it's like to start over. Sarah looked at him with genuine curiosity now, momentarily forgetting her own drama. What do you mean? Michael took a deep breath. He didn't usually talk about this with strangers, but there was something about that night, about that whole encounter, that felt right. Like it was meant to be. I lost my wife a year and a half ago, he began, feeling that familiar pain tighten in his chest. Cancer. It was too fast and too slow at the same time, you know? Sarah placed her hand on his on a table, a simple gesture but full of compassion. I'm so sorry, Michael. Truly. He nodded, grateful. Jennifer and I, we met at church when we were teenagers, 16, 17 years old. We grew up together, married young at 21. We built everything together, the company, the house, our whole lives. She was my best friend, my partner in everything. The words came out slowly, heavy with nostalgia. We started from scratch, literally. I worked as a construction worker's assistant, she as a secretary. But we had big dreams, you know, and we had faith. A lot of faith. We saved every penny, planned every step, and 15 years ago we opened Patterson & Co., a building materials store. It started small, in an old warehouse, but it grew. Today I am one of the biggest suppliers in the region. Sarah listened, fascinated. Wow, you built this from scratch? Michael smiled proudly, despite his sadness. From scratch, with faith, hard work, and lots of love. Jennifer was the brains, I was the muscle. We complemented each other perfectly. He paused, looking at the cold coffee in his cup. Her dream was to be a mother. She wanted a house full of children, laughter, and chaos. We tried for years, did every possible treatment, but it never happened. And when we finally decided to adopt, we had already started the process. She was diagnosed. His voice broke slightly. 3 years of struggle. 3 years watching the woman of my life wither away, losing a piece of herself each day. And in the end, there was nothing more we could do. She was gone, taking with her all those family dreams we had. The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who understood pain, loss, and new beginnings. I don't know what to say, Sarah whispered. There's nothing anyone can say that will make a difference, I know, but I see you, and I see a good man. Jennifer was lucky to have you. Michael discreetly wiped his eyes. I was the lucky one to have her, and you know what's hardest? It's this empty house. I go back every day to a big, beautiful house that we built together, and there's nobody there, just silence. Her dream was to fill that house with love, with life, with family. And now it's just empty. Sarah wasn't quite sure what had moved her at that moment, but she felt she needed to say something. She would be proud of you, Michael, of the man you are, of what you did today, finding Emma, bringing her back to me. That's who you are at heart, someone who cares, who protects, who loves. Michael looked at her with genuine gratitude, and then something happened, a crazy, impulsive idea, completely outside of what he would normally do. But sometimes God works through crazy impulses. Sarah, he began hesitantly, I know we just met. I know this is going to sound completely crazy, but what if you and Emma came to live with me? Sarah froze, her coffee cup suspended in midair. What? Michael spoke quickly, before he lost his courage. Look, I have a house with 4 bedrooms. 2 of them have been empty for over a year. You and Emma are living in a tiny room in the back of a diner. It doesn't make sense. In my house, you would have space, comfort, security. Michael, I can't, Sarah began, but he continued. Listen, you work here late, and Emma is left alone or at risk of getting lost like today. If you live there, I can stay with her while you work. Or we can hire a babysitter when necessary. She'd have a yard to play in, a real room, security, and you'd have peace of mind. Sarah shook her head. her eyes wide. I can't accept this, Michael. We don't even know each other. You don't really know me. I told you I have a past. And I told you the past is the past, Michael interrupted gently. I see who you are now, Sarah. I see a mother who gave up everything to give her daughter a better life. I see courage. I see true change. And more than that, I see God's hand in all of this. Don't you find it strange? Me passing by at that exact time, in that place. Emma being lost just when I was passing by. Us having this whole conversation. I believe it wasn't a coincidence. His words touched something deep in Sarah. Tears began to stream down her face again. I want to believe that, Michael. But I'm afraid to accept help and then find out there's some ulterior motive, something hidden. I've been burned many times trusting the wrong people. Michael understood perfectly. I don't want anything from you, Sarah. Nothing but to do what I think is right. What I think Jennifer would have done. What I think God is calling me to do. To fill that empty house with life again. With purpose. With family. Sarah remained silent for a long time, looking at Emma, who had fallen asleep in the little chair in the corner, hugging her teddy bear. That little girl was everything to her. And Michael was right. Living in that tiny room, working late without knowing if Emma was safe, without being able to give her the basics a child deserved. That wasn't life. It was survival. And Sarah was tired of just surviving. Are you a Christian? She asked suddenly. Michael nodded. I am. I've attended Millbrook Community Church since I moved here 20 years ago. I was raised in the faith, and it's what sustains me to this day, especially after losing Jennifer. Sarah took a deep breath. I drifted away from God for a long time. I made choices that I knew were wrong. But lately, I felt like he hasn't given up on me, you know? That even though I've drifted away, he's still there waiting. She looked into Michael's eyes. Maybe you're right. Maybe all of this isn't a coincidence. Then accept, Michael said softly. At least for now, until you find your own place. There's no commitment, no strings attached. It's just a man trying to help. And a woman and her daughter needing help. Simple as that. Sarah bit her lip, pondering. Every fiber of her being screamed that she shouldn't depend on anyone, that she needed to do everything alone to prove she had changed, that she was strong. But what if being strong meant accepting help when it came? What if pride was different from wisdom? Okay, she finally said, her voice trembling. We accept, but temporarily, until I can save enough money to rent a decent place, and I'll pay some rent even if it's not much. Michael smiled, that first genuine smile since Jennifer had left. Deal. When can you move out? Sarah looked around the diner. I need to let Danny know. Thank him for letting us stay here. Maybe tomorrow night, after my shift. Perfect. I'll prepare the rooms tomorrow morning. And Sarah? He waited for her to look at him. Welcome to Millbrook. For real this time. That night, when Sarah finally laid Emma on the makeshift bed in the tiny back room of the diner, she held her daughter's hand and prayed for the first time in years. She prayed, thanking God for Michael's appearance, for Emma's safety, for this unexpected opportunity that had fallen from the sky, and she asked God to guide her because she was terrified of messing things up again, of ruining this chance for a fresh start. The next day, Michael woke up earlier than usual. There was a different energy about him, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in a long time. He spent the entire morning cleaning and tidying the empty rooms. He transformed one into Emma's room. He bought new sheets with a butterfly print, put in some stuffed animals he found stored in a box, leftovers from donations Jennifer used to organize, and set up a small bookshelf. He left the other room simple but cozy for Sarah, a comfortable double bed, an empty wardrobe waiting, and light curtains that let in the sunlight. When Sarah arrived that night with Emma and 2 old suitcases containing everything they owned in the world, and Michael opened the door to that large, beautiful house with its well-kept lawn and welcoming porch, Sarah had to hold back tears. Michael, this is so beautiful. He took her suitcases. This is your home now. Yours, both of you, for as long as you need it. Emma was speechless, looking at everything with those huge eyes. "Uncle Michael, this house is like a castle." He laughed, a genuine laugh that surprised even himself. "So you're the princess, little one. Come, let me show you your room." When Emma saw the room prepared especially for her, with the stuffed animals and butterfly sheets, she squealed with joy and jumped onto the bed, hugging everything at once. Sarah stood in the doorway, her hand over her mouth, completely moved. "You didn't need to do all this." Michael shrugged, a little awkwardly. "I wanted to. It's been a long time since this house has seen this kind of joy." The first few days were strange, as one might expect. Sarah would wake up early, make breakfast for Emma, leave her with Michael, who worked from home some mornings, and go to her shift at the diner. Michael discovered he liked having Emma around. She was talkative, curious, full of life. She reminded him of what Jennifer would have been like as a mother. He would take her to the playground, help with her kindergarten homework, make snacks, and little by little, that huge house began to feel like home again. 2 weeks after the move, on a Sunday morning, Michael was having coffee when he came downstairs already dressed for church. Sarah was making pancakes for Emma, still in her pajamas. "Good morning," he said, taking a cup of coffee. "Good morning," Sarah replied, flipping the pancakes in the pan. There was a comfortable silence between them now, a routine that had formed naturally. "I was going to church in a little while," Michael commented casually. "Do you and Emma want to come along?" Sarah stopped what she was doing. She hadn't been inside a church in years, since before Emma was born. The idea made her nervous. "I don't know, Michael. It's been a long time, and I don't have the right clothes." "You look beautiful just the way you are," he interrupted. "And God doesn't care about clothes. He cares about the heart. But there's no pressure. It's just an invitation." Sarah looked at Emma, who had overheard the conversation. "Can we go, Mommy? Please?" "Uncle Michael said there are other children there." And so, somewhat awkwardly, somewhat terrified, Sarah found herself entering Millbrook Community Church that morning. It was a small, cozy church, with wooden pews and stained glass windows that let the sunlight stream in like rainbows. People greeted Michael familiarly, and he introduced Sarah and Emma with genuine pride. "This is Sarah and little Emma. They're staying with me while Sarah settles into town." There was no judgment in people's eyes, only sincere welcomes. The service was transformative. Sarah hadn't expected to feel anything, but when the congregation began to sing, when the pastor spoke about new beginnings and forgiveness and God's unconditional love, she felt something break inside her. All those walls she had built, all that guilt she carried, all that fear of not being enough, suddenly seemed less heavy. Tears streamed down her face, and she didn't even try to hide them. Michael, beside her, placed his hand on her shoulder in a gesture of silent support. And Emma, on the other side, held her mother's hand tightly. After that Sunday, going to church became routine. Every Sunday, the three of them went together. Sarah started attending the Wednesday night Bible study group, made friends with other women, and began to rebuild her faith brick by brick. She saw the change in herself. Less fear, more hope, less shame, more forgiveness. And Emma was flourishing too. She had friends from church. She was happier, more confident. It was about a month after the move that Michael made another unexpected invitation. They were having dinner, something that had become a tradition, the three of them together at the table, talking about their day, when he cleared his throat. "Sarah, I was thinking, how's it going working at the diner?" Sarah shrugged. "It's good. Danny's a good boss. The pay is fair for a small town." "Why?" Michael hesitated. "What if you came work with me? At Patterson & Co.? Sarah nearly choked on her water. "What?" "Michael, I don't know anything about construction materials." "You don't need to know," he explained. "I need someone in the office, someone to organize documents, answer the phone, do the basic administrative work. Jennifer used to do that, and since she left, I've been outsourcing everything, and it's a total mess. You're smart, organized, responsible. It would be perfect, and the pay would be better, and you'd have regular business hours, no night shifts." Sarah was speechless. "Michael, you've done so much for me." "It's not charity," He interrupted firmly. It's real work. I need help, and you need a better job. It's good for everyone, and that way you'd have more time with Emma. You could pick her up from school, have dinner with her every day. Sarah looked at Emma, who was smiling excitedly at the idea, and then she looked back at Michael, the man who had appeared out of nowhere and turned her life upside down, in the best possible way. Okay, she said, smiling for the first time since the beginning of the conversation. I accept. Thank you, Michael, for everything. And that's how Sarah started working at Patterson & Co. She would arrive in the morning with Michael. They would work together during the day, he in the store and in the stockroom, she in the office organizing months of administrative mess, and they would return together at the end of the afternoon to pick up Emma from school. It was efficient, it worked perfectly, but more than that, it was good. It was enjoyable to work side by side, have lunch together, discuss orders, suppliers, and clients, and little by little, very slowly, something began to change between them. It wasn't sudden, it wasn't dramatic, it was subtle. A hand that touched another by accident and lingered a second longer before pulling away. A gaze that lingered. A shared laugh that seemed more intimate. Sarah began to notice things about Michael. How kind he was to everyone. How he had integrity in every action. How he looked at Emma with genuine paternal love. How he looked at her, Sarah, as if she were something precious. Michael, for his part, began to feel something he thought he would never feel again after Jennifer. That butterfly in his stomach when Sarah entered the room. That desire to make her smile. That feeling of completeness when the three of them were together at the dinner table. He felt guilty at first, as if he were betraying Jennifer. But one night, praying before bed, he felt a peace about it. As if Jennifer were saying it was okay, that she wanted him to be happy, that this was exactly what should happen. It was Sarah who brought up the subject first. It was a Friday night, Emma was already asleep, and the two of them were on the balcony drinking iced tea looking at the stars. Michael, Sarah began, her voice low. I need to tell you something. He turned to her, his heart racing for no apparent reason. Go ahead. Sarah took a deep breath. I know we have an agreement that I'm here temporarily until I save up money for my own place. But I don't know if I want this anymore. Michael felt his heart race. What do you mean? Sarah looked at him, vulnerable and brave at the same time. I think I'm falling in love with you, Michael. And I know it's complicated, and I know you're still grieving for Jennifer, and I know I shouldn't feel this way, but she couldn't finish because Michael had leaned in and kissed her, gentle, soft, full of promise. When they parted, he was smiling. Me too, he whispered. I'm falling in love with you too, Sarah. And I feel guilty and grateful and confused and happy all at the same time. Sarah laughed, crying simultaneously. I'm so afraid of messing this up. You won't mess anything up. Michael cupped her face in his hands. We won't mess anything up. We'll take it slow. We'll do it right. But I want to try, Sarah. I want to see where this leads, because I believe God brought you and Emma into my life for a reason. It wasn't just to help you. It was to save me too, to remind me that life goes on, that love goes on. They stood there on the balcony, embraced, while the stars shone above and the world seemed to finally make sense again. The following months were spent building something new, something beautiful. They dated the right way, with respect, with time, with prayer. They took Emma on outings, had family dinners, went to church events together. And Emma, that bright little girl, was radiant with happiness seeing her mother truly smiling and having Uncle Michael officially as part of their lives. A year and a half after that providential encounter on the dark street, Michael proposed to Sarah. It was simple, it was perfect. On the porch of the house where they had shared so many moments, with Emma holding the rings, he knelt and popped the question. Sarah said yes through tears, and Emma jumped up shouting, "Let's be a real family." They were married at Millbrook Community Church, the same church where Sarah had rediscovered her faith, where they had built their community. It was a small but beautiful ceremony, with all who loved them present. And when the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, he didn't have a dry eye in the congregation, because everyone there knew the journey those two had traveled, from pain to hope, from loss to love, from despair to redemption. 2 years later, Sarah gave birth to a boy, Joshua Michael Patterson. Emma, now 9 years old, was the perfect older sister, helping with everything, singing to her little brother, telling him bedtime stories. The house that had once been empty and silent was now full of laughter, baby cries, conversations at the dinner table, bedtime prayers, exactly as Jennifer had dreamed. And Michael knew, deep in his heart, that she was happy, that she approved, that it was all part of a bigger plan. Sarah would sometimes stop in the middle of the day, in the middle of changing Joshua's diaper, or helping Emma with her homework, or working alongside Michael in the office, and have to pinch herself, because it seemed too much of a dream to be real. From a girl lost in drugs and toxic relationships, to a woman who had found redemption, love, and purpose. All because one night she got distracted at work and her daughter got lost. All because a man decided to stop his car and help instead of driving on. All because they decided to trust, to take a chance, to believe that God had a better plan than they could imagine. And He did. He always did. Sometimes, life's greatest blessings come disguised as moments of despair. A lost child, a terrified mother, a lonely widower, and God piecing together all the broken fragments to form something beautiful, complete, and full of purpose. Michael, Sarah, and Emma discovered that family isn't just about blood. It's about choice, love, and faith. It's about believing that it's never too late to start over, that it's never too late to love again, and that God always has a better plan than we can imagine. Their story reminds us that when we open ourselves to God's will, when we choose to trust even in the midst of pain, He transforms everything, even the darkest nights, into dawns full of hope. If this story touched you, leave a like, comment what you thought, and subscribe to keep hearing stories like this. See you in the next video.